Hi, we're going to look at skin retouching, and we're going to use something called frequency separation method. To do that we need to duplicate this layer twice to begin. Control J is a shortcut, and one of the layers, the bottom one, we're going to call that colour, and the top one we're going to call that detail. This is basically telling you a little bit about what's going on here. What we're going to try and do is separate out the detail away from the colour so that we can work on the two of them independently. So for the moment, just turn off the detail. The colour layer is going to have a Gaussian blur applied to it. I'm going to look for something around about 19 in this case. I mean, it will change depending on the image, but basically we just want to get rid of the detail while holding on to the broad general colour. So 1923, something around there. That'll be fine. So say OK to that. So next, taking the detail layer, turn that on. We're going to use image and apply image. Set the blending mode to subtract. Choose the colour layer in that box. Scale to offset 128 and say OK. And set the blend mode here to linear light. And let's just see how that detail's been added back in with the detail layer. There we go. Little zoom in to show you. So the detail's separated onto that layer and the colour is separated just onto there. Okay, great stuff. Let's make a duplicate of this layer here and drag it to the top, rename it before or original, and we're going to just use that every now and then to go backwards and forwards and have a little look at anything that's changed. And as you can see, those eagle-eyed amongst you will see, I've already made a little tiny adjustment, but if you can see just under the eye here, I've made a little tiny adjustment. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So turn the detail off. In the colour layer, choose your clone stamp tool. Set the opacity and flow to somewhere like mid-40s, something like that. Get the brush size to be appropriate. Hold the Alt key, select the tonal range that you're interested in, and probably start somewhere around the eyes to begin with. And we're just going to start removing a little bit of redness. So a little Alt press, take a little bit of redness out, and if you want to see what's happening, you'll see there's the before and there's the after, and you'll see the redness just lifting slightly. So it's that kind of subtle shift that you're seeing in here that we're trying to affect. So we're increasing highlights around places like the cheekbones. We're going to be taking out any kind of like tonal variation where people get a little bit red and blotchy. We're going to remove those, just soften those tones out and even them out. Okay, so we'll just do a little bit more work on that. Depending on your subject, it's going to take a little bit of time. So what I might do here is just pause the video and then come back when I have done the necessary adjustments. But you can see the method. Just Alt click to choose the area you're interested in, and then click it to introduce and try and get that evenness of tone. Okay, so I'll just pause for a second, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've done the cloning operation on the colour layer. Let's have a little look at the effects. So here's the before and after. So that's how it was before. Let's just have a little zoom in and see what's going on. So that was before, and this is after. And as you can see, around the eyes, down the side of the nose, the end of the nose, people often get a little bit red or discoloured you get some dark shadows down in these areas, and you just want to take the highlights, say from the top of the cheekbone, and move them up into these areas. You can see little blemishes around here that we can just even that tonality out. Okay, so you see the difference. Okay, so now that'll do for now, and I'm going to move on to the detail layer, do some work in there. So for work on this detail layer, I'm just going to use the patch tool, which is here, and just in case yours is hidden, it might be under the spot healing brush. Just click, hold, and select the patch tool. And we're just going to go around the image, and we're just going to remove some blemishes that we may think are unwanted. So this is a process whereby you kind of got to be careful, I suppose, because you don't want to remove. Sorry, just rather than talking about that, I'll just show you. So just circle the area that you're interested in, move it to the side, and it clones a little bit of skin. And I normally go fairly horizontal when I'm doing this, kind of keeps the flow, the texture of the skin running nicely. Like this area here, this is kind of interesting because that is actually, of course, part of the detail of the character's face. So you've got to make the call what you leave in and what you leave out, depending on the project and what you're working on. If you're kind of beautifying somebody and you don't want any blemishes, then you know you're going to have more work to do. I may not want to take out half as much as, say, if it's a photo shoot for a fashion mag or something, then you're not going to want to leave little blemishes and spots on the skin of the subject. Okay, so I'm just going to run around and do a few of these here and there. Like that. Okay, that's nice. Again, I'll just put it on pause while I do the alterations, then I'll come back to you. One sec. Okay, so let's have a little look at what I've done. I've just removed a few little things like details around the nose here, where he had a few nose hairs that he probably didn't want to be included in his portrait. So let's have a little look before and after, and you'll see little blemishes missing here, there. Now I've removed that, but you know, that's it's a difficult call. That is, of course, part of the character of the face. So in this instance, I wasn't sure, but in a way I've gone with it to demonstrate how the process works. So little areas, little details around here. You can see the colour shift and some of the details coming in and out of the image. I think for the time being, we'll accept that difference. Okay, so let's now introduce our dodge and burn layer. So let's add two new layers. So one layer set to soft light. Make sure you select that. Fill with soft light neutral. That's 50% grey. Okay, let's duplicate that layer. Control J. One of them is going to be called dodge. One's going to be called burn. Okay, so turn off the burn for the time being. We're just going to use our dodge tool. I'm going to set it to about somewhere around 14-15%, something like that, 13-14%. I'm going to work on mid-tones on both layers. Okay. So let's start on the dodge layer, and I think I'll just work in towards the eyes. Just do a little bit of brightening in here around the iris. Before and after. Just a little bit of brightness added into those corners. depends very much on your subject and the purpose of your brief. But I guess in this instance I'm just offering a little bit more of a flattering rendering of this chap's face. Let's have a little look. So we can just see that just helps brighten things up. And of course, you've got your opacity layers. You can knock that way down, depending how you feel. I think I'm going to leave it about there. Okay, let's look at down the centre of the nose and the cheekbones and above the eye. So, increase the size of my brush, give this a broad stroke, just a little bit around the cheekbone areas, like so. Add a little bit of tone around the place, bring the highlights out. Increase that brush a lot. So, I'm going to give a little brush right across the middle, just above the highlights, almost like a triangle there. Have a little look. I'm just going to undo that. I think that was a little much. That's better. Okay, so a little trial and error. I'm going to take that exposure down a wee bit for those broader brushes. So 5%, I'm just going to give it a little brush across there and there. Let's have a little before and after. That's fine. Okay, let's look at the, just move that beneath, sorry. Let's look at the burn layer now. Up to the burn layer. Okay, so let's get the burn tool. Let's work right in on the eyes again, first of all. Let's give it a little bit of darkening in there. Ooh, just take that down, sorry. Undo that. Look at the opacity. Where are we? Burn tool, exposure. Knock that down to 15–16% on the midtones, just so nothing's too dramatic when you first apply it. A little bit of darkness in there, just to help. That's it. A little bit of definition around the brow underneath. Increase the size there. Just going to give a little bit of tone to those eyebrows. Like so. Let's have a little before and after. That's what we're looking for. A tiny bit. You know, again, depends on the project, but I don't want to be too extreme in this. I'm just going to offer detail around the eyes. This is the important area, I guess. Okay, moving across, same again. I'm just using the square brackets, by the way, on the keyboard, left and right square brackets, to increase and decrease the brush nice and quickly so that I don't have to keep going over to the tool menu and clicking. Let's get down to the cheekbones. Let's give them a little lift under the cheekbones and a little shadow. Increase that underneath here. Helps with the definition. Makes the face look a little bit more defined and thinner. I think I went a little bit over the top of that last one. There we go, we'll do that. Just take that in a little bit. Underneath the chin line, cheekbones and eyes. That's kind of where we need to be operating. And let's have a little before and after. And everything's fine except, I'm guessing, that little area there. I'm just going to give it a little highlight in there. Just brighten that up a bit there. That's fine. Okay, so let's have a quick look. Let's give him some highlights here up here as well. Before and after, quick check. That's nice. I think I'll give him a little bit of lightness in here as well. Let's go in. And let's just brighten this up. Again, we don't go over the top, make things too artificial. It's just a cosmetic touch here and there. A little highlight across the top of the lips. Okay, I'm thinking that perhaps I've done a little bit too much burning here, just a little bit, so I'm going to just knock that back a little bit with the eraser tool. Take the opacity down a wee bit. Just going to give it a little brush in there. And a little bit there as well. Just take that back a little bit. That's better. So just using the eraser tool, you can go back in and you can undo anything that you think you've done with a little bit too much emphasis. Okay. So just before I leave this, I'm just going to add one more layer. This time I'm going to set the mode to color and say OK. Now if you were doing a shoot in the studio and you needed additional color, maybe a makeup artist had added some color to your subject and then you needed to enhance that, then you could use the color layer to do this. So just choosing an appropriate color like so. In fact, let's just do that color selection again. I'm just going to warm that up a little bit like that. Take your paintbrush, opacity, yeah, probably somewhere around about 18. Okay, so if you were, say, working in here and you wanted to just increase or alter the colour, you could just add a little bit in like this. I mean, you could do it really dramatically with eyeshadow and whatever, but I'm just going to add a little bit of colour in there where I think it's missing just a bit. I'll just show you. So before and after. Again, that colour tone just, I think, adds continuity to the subject's skin. Okay, let's have a look. I think that's better. I mean, you could really make this very strong, but or alternatively you can take the opacity way down and then just re-feed it in slowly until you think you've hit the point where it looks natural. Okay, so I think somewhere around about there. Let's have a look at the before and the after. Okay, I might want to do a last little bit of burning. In here. Just do that, a little bit more burning in there. Like that. Okay. That's better. Okay, so you can go on and on and on refining things, but essentially I think you kind of get the idea. I'm just going to rename that colour. I like to keep all the layers named.